Should you get the liability insurance as a freelance translator? This and more in this week's Q&A, coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. I'm back from a short summer break. I took some time to just recharge and come up with new ideas. And now we are back for season 2 of the Freelanceverse with regular videos every Monday at 6 p.m. CET. So I thought what better way to come back than talking to you guys and interacting with your questions and doing the next Q&A of the series. Especially because the last one was in April, I think, and now it's already August, so we are a bit behind. I want to do these every 2 months, but of course with the break it postponed it a bit, so we do it now to kick off the new season. As always, I took these questions mostly from the last Q&A video, so if you want to be featured in the next one, make sure to ask them down below here. You may have noticed there is now a join button down below. That's a new feature that YouTube gave me because I reached 4,000 subscribers. So if you want to become a member of the channel, I would appreciate it very much. You would get a little icon next to your name so people would see that you're a channel member, and you also get some other perks. Check it out if you're interested. So let's get into it with the first question. Question number 1 is from Luke. Hey Adrian, love the channel and congrats on 2,000 subs, 4,000 now. I have a question for the next Q&A. Would you advise getting some form of professional indemnity insurance as a freelancer, or do you think this is an overkill, especially if your main client base is LSPs or agencies? Thanks for the question, Luke. As always, I already answered all these questions in the comments, so you don't have to wait for my answer for the next video, but I'm just including them and answering them again on screen. In terms of insurance, so I asked this question in the legal video. If you haven't seen this, you can click here. It's one of the specialized series about legal translation. And there I even asked them, like, how is it for you guys? Because you translate legal stuff, and that's even more dangerous in terms of liability, right? So, but even there they said, no one really has liability insurance because it's very hard to pinpoint a mistake back or to the translator, you know. Mostly the source text is already ambiguous, and there you can actually claim responsibility, but not with the translator. And mostly there's even a little sentence saying that this is not the original, so there is no liability coming with it. Me personally, I don't have liability insurance of that type. I just have the general like work insurance, but that's mandatory here anyways. So yeah, for me it's a bit of an overkill. I don't think you need it. Only if you're really like specialized in some kind of very sensitive topic, you can think about it. Question 2 comes from Dan. Dan, language. Hello, I'm new here, so I ask you a question and you may answer it on an upcoming video. Sure. Anyway, I'd like to know an average amount of words you deem to be fine for a single day, and how long you think it's fine for it to take, so to have a healthy workday. Thanks. Okay, very good question about how much you can actually do in a day, right? Now this depends, of course, a lot on the person, a lot on the services. I assume you strictly mean translating, but you have to keep in mind that translating won't be all you do in a day. It's very rare that people only do translation. But just for a thought exercise, let's assume that translation is all we do. Me personally, I can do roughly 500 words an hour, I would say, if I'm quite familiar with the topic. If I've done my research previously and if I'm in the topic, then I can do about 500 words an hour. And I can be productive per day, probably like properly, you know, productive working day, probably like 5 hours. A total of 2,500 words per day is good for me. It's a very good, let's say, it's a very productive working day. But then of course I do lots of other services and it all ties in, and I take some breaks, I take some jobs that don't require a lot of mental focus, you know, you can do them kind of on the side. So in that regard, you can work for 8 hours a day, even though you probably can't be super focused 8 hours a day. Next we have Valdast with question 3. He's a recurring guest on the channel. My question for this Q&A is the following. Do you use any speech recognition software to dictate your translations instead of typing them? And if you do, what is your workflow? I found that dictating increases my translation speed by quite a bit, if the text does not contain too many obscure terms or tags. So me personally, no, I don't work with any speech recognition software, but I do know plenty of people that do, and they swear by it. They say the productivity increases by like almost double, which is great for them, of course. During my studies, we did work with speech recognition software. They taught us for re-speaking purposes, but also for translation purposes. We used Dragon, Naturally Speaking. I think that's the main software that almost everyone uses. And I then spoke a bit with Valdes in the comments, and he said that in the beginning, it's indeed a very hard process to get into it, but then it's a steep learning curve. So you will get really, like, your productivity skyrockets quite quickly after you start getting into it. But you need to train the software. It needs to recognize your accent, your voice, your intonations, etc. So maybe, yeah, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, definitely go for it. I don't think it's too expensive to pick up Dragon, and then you just need a good headset so you can recognize you. And then instead of typing, you are just speaking. So of course you can be much quicker. Question 4 is from Augustine. I'm a technical translator and I'm studying to become a certified translator. Lately, I've been mainly focused on finishing my studies, but now I'm trying to get a job as a translator. The thing is that the only experience I have is the one I've got in class translation projects I had to do as homework. And I was wondering how I can put that experience on my CV. It's kind of difficult to get a job because many agencies or contractors ask for translators to have several years of experience, and many people like me do not have the experiences they request. Also, when you have a little experience, it's quite confusing to determine the area of expertise you want to specialize in. Okay, lots of information in there. Let me begin by saying that that's definitely a huge issue for all of the youngsters trying to start out after college, right? The permission paradox, it's called. I made a video. You can click here as well if you want to watch it. When you don't have enough experience, but the jobs requires to get experience to get the job. So this is the catch-22 in recruiting. There are definitely things you can do. In this video, I mentioned a lot of options you can do without actually having real jobs, right? There's a lot of volunteering involved, asking acquaintances, families to do their translation work, just translating websites in general and then sending them to the publishers and see if they use it in some way. So there are a lot of ways to build a portfolio, but it's hard work. You just need to get through it. In terms of translation projects I had to do as homework, I don't think you can use them as experience. I mean, that's really just part of your education, right? I mean, I've done so many translations in my translation studies, but that's a manufactured environment, right? They give you specific jobs that you need to do certain research on, and yeah, that's just education. You can't use that as CV, but as I just said, there are many different other things you can use. When you have little experience, it's quite confusing to determine the area of expertise you want to specialize in. That's true, but don't stress on that. It really doesn't matter. You can go 2, 3, 4 years without having a specialization. It's not that big a deal, right? You can be a general translator even without specialization. You can still be successful, right? It's important to be specialized, but people make it out to be like the number one thing. And if you don't find your place in the beginning, it's fine. You don't need to. Like, I never thought I would specialize in sport and sport retail until I found 2, 3 clients in the same month in this topic, and then I decided, okay, I really like this, and then I specialized in it. And I remember my teacher in college, he was like specialized in very niche, very expensive Swiss watches, right? And he said he never even owned one, and it's not something he wanted to specialize in, but he just slipped into it somehow. He found 2 clients specializing in watches, and now he's the Swiss watch translation guy in Switzerland, you know, so you never know what will happen, so don't stress about that. That's just gonna happen when it should. This was Augustine's, right? So number 5 is from Gilles. Gilles asked, I have seen on your Upwork video that you use @gmail.com email address. Do you also use it for your initial contact with clients and agencies? I have read people saying that they ditch emails like this right away because they don't look professional enough, and many scammers use that same type of address. If this is true, it would be worth paying for a domain name and an @domainname.com address. But at the same time, if you have been using a Gmail address for quite some time and that you already have a regular client with it, wouldn't that be a little risky, confusing to suddenly change it? I have mixed feelings on the issue. What do you think about it? So my @gmail.com account is strictly for the YouTube purposes, right? Freelanceverse @gmail.com is where you can reach me. I'm quite behind because I took this summer break and I didn't answer 2 emails, so I have like 30, 40 emails to respond to. So please excuse if it takes some time, but you can reach me there. You can ask to subtitle my videos there if you would like, or just ask for some advice, no problem. But that's strictly for the Freelanceverse, right? For my actual business email, I have, of course, my domain name. I really like that, and it should be like this if you ask me. Whenever I get a message from Yahoo or from Gmail or whatever as a professional email, I think it's very unprofessional. It doesn't look good. It doesn't seem like you take it seriously, right? Because you want to be a company. You want to establish yourself as a service provider and not as someone with a Gmail address. So definitely, if you can afford it, if it's within your budget, go for it. And don't worry about people being used to your email address already. It really doesn't matter. I mean, they can just, once you send them a new email, they will know your name, and that's it. Mostly in Outlook or wherever it anyway says your first name and last name, and that's it. And no one looks actually at the email address, right? So don't worry about changing it. If you want to do that, go for it. I think we have one more. Yes, question 6 from Nox. That's quite a straightforward one, but I wanted to include it because I got this question several times. Hi, thank you so much for this video. I'm debating whether or not to invest in Probst.com, but I want to know in what format do you usually have to deliver a translation? So that was something I didn't know that people were struggling with, but I get this question a lot. Like, how do I actually deliver a translation? What's the format? Do I do translations in Word, or what do I do? Whatever format you receive the translation from the client, you will also deliver it, right? So if you work with MemoQ, for example, you get a MemoQ incoming package, you translate it, you export it, and you deliver a MemoQ export package. The same with STL. That's when you send it, it's called a return package. When you receive it, I'm not sure what it's called, but some kind of STL package. When someone delivers a Word, you just deliver also in Word. PDF, if you have to proofread in PDF, you open it, you annotate it with comments, and you deliver again in PDF. So whatever the client delivers you is also your delivery. Quite straightforward, but important to know, of course, when you start out. There you go. These are the 6 questions of this week. Next Q&A will be in 2 months as usual. So that would be beginning of October probably. Make sure to leave your comments down below if you want to have your question answered. I'm also considering doing a kind of a video version of a Q&A. So if you're interested in that, that would be also cool. You can just record your question with the phone, record yourself asking the question and send it by email, because then I can, instead of just showing the image, I can actually play you guys' questions on the screen. That would be kind of fun. If you want to do that, go ahead and send me an email with your question. That's all for today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It helps me a lot. And I see you next Monday with the next video. Bye bye.